Oh, right. I remember this case. An Australian teenager joining ISIS. You know, you don't see as much of this anymore. Where are the Western teenagers joining Hamas? Right? Come on. We need to return. They joined Hezbollah. I guess there have been some Westerners that joined Hezbollah. Why does this shit happen? This is one of those like feel good kind of weird, difficult to quantify characteristics of civilization building, but one of the most important things that you need in a population for things to be stable is you need hope and willpower. If people have hope, if people think the future can be better, they invest in it, they care about it. They get educated, they keep their neighborhoods clean, they abide the law. And I don't just mean that in like an authoritarian way. I mean like they don't do things that are obviously antisocial. People tend to structure themselves better because they hope that the future will be better. They haven't lost hope. If people lose hope, they get really wacky really, really quick. This kid had no hope. You need hope and willpower, okay? Those are the two things that are like very difficult to quantify. They're very difficult to like, structurally build around, but they are nonetheless essential features of building a civilization. And if you run out of either of those things, you run into trouble. Most of the problems that you see with people on Twitter are a lack of hope. All of the dozens of arguments that I've had about whether or not voting is morally wrong or blah, 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 lesser evil voting or this or that or blah, 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 blah. Like, most of those are because I'm talking to people without hope. You know, they've become kind of like, well, you'll come back. They've become kind of like, doomer, rapturists, right? They're waiting for the judgment day. They don't believe in anything being made better except through some gigantic transformational radical all at once ultra violent change, you know. This is a pretty common feature, I think, for political extremists. It's one of the reasons why political extremists also have a tendency to be mentally ill, because I think that the forces that lead a person towards mental unwellness are often ones that also leave them without much hope for the future. And also there can be some overlap there. A lack of hope in the future can make a person ill, and illness can make a person lack hope in the future. But, there's a heavy overlap between these things. It's important. Capitalism requires a minimum level of hopelessness. No, I actually disagree. I think that capitalism actually operates a lot better when people are hopeful. It's a system that perpetuates itself on the myth of meritocracy and the idea that everyone's participation in the system can allow them to benefit from it. The central myth of capitalism is that you get out of it what you put into it, It's not like communism, the underlying conceit of which is, to each according to their needs, from each according to their ability. Even if you can't give much, you still get what you need, right? Capitalism doesn't afford that, which means that you have to believe you will get out of it what you put in. Now, that's not true, of course, at least not for a lot of people. A lot of people work very hard and get very little, but hope in that system keeps people functional, right? I would say that to a large extent, this hopelessness is one of the reasons why the black community has stagnated for the past 40 or 50 years when it comes to economic parity. A lot of it, of course, is stuff like systemic deprivation, the war on drugs, targeted policing. There's like a billion structural racism shit, things that you could throw out there as explanations. But a big part of it is also, if you're a young black guy in America today and you understand how bad things are for you and for other people like you right now, how much investment are you really going to put in something like your education or long-term prospects? If you're a millennial these days, or a Zoomer, God forbid, can you imagine? Can you even fathom buying a house? And I mean like in a place you want to live, not in some, nothing suburb in the middle of the Midwest, 50 miles away from the nearest grocery store, like if there's no hope, if there's no belief that the work you put in will get you anything in the long run, people stop putting work in. And that does lead to a kind of cyclical effect. It's one of the reasons why on a systemic level, you have to acknowledge a kind of, patterned hopelessness, but an individual level, being delusionally hopeful is almost always the correct option. There's almost never a point in a person's individual life where being hopeless and acting hopeless are better for you. It's almost always better to persist believing that your work will make a difference, even if it's unlikely that it will. That almost always gets you better outcomes. So individually, you have to give people very uplifting advice. And on a systemic level, you have to acknowledge, okay, individually uplifting people isn't enough here. You have to address the underlying such and such. Now, no one said life would be easy, Do you think people in the US are less hopeless today than they were 20 years ago? No, the opposite. People today are at record levels of hopelessness, especially younger people. Anyone less than 40, I guess. No. We're quite down at the moment. There's not really much like shared belief in people believe in a society less and less with each passing year. The idea that there's any kind of like collective instrument of social organization that people can get behind and build and invest into, people don't believe in that as much as they used to. They believe in it very little right now. Do you think this could cause a return to religion for some? Yeah, for some. Why do you think there's this weird synchronicity with like weirdo internet incel alt-right types and being tradcath? For people who are very, very hopeless and who have an authoritarian streak, like they need to be told what to do, the aesthetic religious fervor can give them a purpose that they're too weak to construct for themselves. Pardon my Reddit atheist language there, but I do mean it. Also, Buddhism is in vogue. The only reason Westerners like Buddhism is because they don't realize that just as many wars have been fought in its name as any for Christianity or whatever else. People, they just think it's like woo-woo hippie, horoscopes, meditate, incense, karmic cycle, blah, blah. And you read, for 5 seconds, you read up in the history of Buddhism, and it's like, oh, wait, it's a religion. And it's a religion. Oh, wow, that's crazy, But, it's not like anyone actually follows the religious texts of the religions they believe in, so whatever. How do you get people out of, it's better not to try than to try because failing hurts worse than trying? Is that more than just a lost cause? That right there is mental illness. It's better not to try because failing hurts worse than not trying is almost objectively wrong. That's wrong in almost every element of life. There's a reason why one of the most often told, bits of wisdom is give it a try, at least then you'll know it didn't work, right? It's just wrong. The solution to this rhetorically is to grab them by the head and slap them like this over and over until they stop being that way. It's just wrong. You should always try everything, unless the potential of you getting hurt is real, like trying to climb up a mountain or what, blah, blah. But like obviously broadly with stuff in life, yes, you should try. It hurts more to fail than it does to, no, it doesn't. Failing doesn't feel like anything. Failing is just part of life. You think you're 100% succeeding every single thing that you do? Nobody lives like that. Not the most powerful and wealthy people on earth, Like very determined people fail constantly. It's about having a good attitude about failing, It reminds me of like, even with the most minor things, it reminds me of like when I was younger playing online games with my friends, and I don't give a shit if I lose a game. Like I get into the game, and I guess like if I lose, it's unfortunate, but like, whatever, I tried my best. Very shonen protag attitude for me, if I do say so myself. But some of my friends, they've been, they get like upset. And it's like that with a lot of things too, This is one of the things also that leads to people having sexual pathologies as well, right? Like people are, like guys are terrified that they'll like nut too quick the first time they have sex. They'll do a bad job giving head. Then do it. Then do a bad job giving head. Okay, you could do a better job next time. What do you It's I will never attempt anything because I don't start great at it. Nobody starts good at anything, Maybe if you're lucky, you start okay because you just have a set of skills that lean into being good at that one thing, Like, yeah, Jesus, like anyone starts that way. It's ridiculous. You literally have to fake it till you make it, or you can just acknowledge you're not good. That's fine. That's fine. Like, okay, I will say, because I'm on the other side of this, right? Obviously, I was born being excellent at giving head, everything else. Of course. But like on the other side of thing, I'm with a person, they're like relatively inexperienced. They say, oh, I've never sucked a dick before, so I'm sorry if I'm bad. Have I ever cared? I ask you, would you care? I mean it. Really think. If you could imagine some nice person, they're cute, you've been flirting, and they say, oh, I've never sucked dick before, actually. I'm worried that I'll be bad, blah, blah. Would you be even a little bit like, is this a failure state? Is this a path to bad? I asked a lot of rhetorical questions in a row, so your answers mean nothing to me. The answer is no, you wouldn't care, and neither would they, okay? Just people are so weird about failure. Failing is life. Path to bad, you know what I mean. Only if they use teeth? Then ask them not to. If Vosh doesn't do politics soon, this is politics! I tell you, it's about the hopelessness. You talk like this, you avoid stuff like this. This is politics. It is. It's just like, this is one of the problems with liberals. This is why they've been having trouble with the GOP. Liberals are good at wonkery. Liberals are good at, this is where you get the vibe session discourse, where it's like, how can there be a recession when these charts say there's not, Liberals are good at the wonkery, at the charts, at the policy, at the blah, blah. Not to say that's not a valuable skill, it is. But there are other underlying psychological elements to politics and to society building A lot of these have to do with rhetoric and populism, by the way, because populism is a rhetorical device for instilling hope in a population, right? You know that's what it does. That's the purpose of populism. That things can get better, that the system is broken now, but we can fix it. That's hope. That's what Bernie Sanders offered. To an extent, that's what Obama offered, very insincerely. And it worked, for Obama at least. You manage stuff like that well, and you don't get stuff like this. Vosh, so you don't care if your lack of ability negatively affects the people around you? Go find a pillow to scream into. What life are you living where your lack of ability is negatively affecting the people around you? Are you a soldier? Are you worried that a slow reload will cost your squad their lives? What abilities exactly are you hinging the well-being of your friends on? Are you a surgeon? You know? If you are a surgeon, get your failures out of the way in med school before you start practicing on real people, okay? Yes, fine. But I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think that your friends are hurt. Learn how to drive before you drive. Yes, of course. I don't know what you're talking about. How does one inject hope into someone? Subscribe to Vosh on YouTube. Give me money through VGG. Say nice things to me. It's the only way.